people ask you about me, you're like, whoa, they're like, what's one word that you would use to describe Todd? What word do you give them? Because I got the word for you, but what do you got? What do you got for me?
I don't have one word, but we were actually just talking about this. And it was at jiu-jitsu, and we were talking about how much people think that you and I look alike.
Yeah, I don't see it, but go on.
And I didn't say this, but the one dude goes, you ever been in a conversation where someone's like, man, you look just like so-and-so, and you're like, yo, they're ugly. and then you're like, you messing with me, right? So that's how I was going to say, like, an uglier version of me.
Oh God. See, typically people say to me, you're like a bigger, better looking Chris Merritt. And I agree. You know, I say when people are like, how do you describe Chris in one word? I say fearful. And it's just really, that's the first word. It comes just very meek, very fearful.
True.
Afraid of his own shadow.
True.
Yeah. And people get it. Nightlight. You still have a nightlight.
No, I ditched the nightlight. What I was going to say is I still like sprint and get under the covers when I shut the lights out.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I have cameras.
It's dark under the covers, but I feel that I can. It's a more enclosed environment, less risk.
Less risk. I was hoping you'd fight me on that. It would have been more fun if you didn't.
On me being fearful?
Yeah.
I want people to think I'm fearful.
Are you? What is your deepest fear? What is your darkest?
We already talked about this.
Did we?
Remember? And I was like, I don't really have one, but then
Chris is like, I'm not afraid of anything.
Well, no, but I was like, but then it turned into me saying, when you really stop and think about like end of life, you know, like what if it all just, you don't remember that? We kicked off an episode talking about that somewhere recently.
What happens.
I mean, you never know.
See ya.
You never know. But
Gone.
I think that's the thing that freaks me out the most. But like a fear, I don't know. I guess a lot of things if you really stop and think about it, but I just don't think about things that scare me all that much. You ever think about how you're going to die?
I'm Chris Merritt. I don't have time to...
I don't. You ever really think about how you're going to die though? Like really?
How I'm going to die?
Stop and wonder? Like, is it going to be painful? Is it going to be quick? Is it going to be sickness? Is it going to be an accident? Is it going to just like... You're going to slowly fade. Like, you ever think about these things?
I know how I'm going to die.
Okay.
I've known how I was going to die since I was 17 years old.
Go on.
Did you ever see Legends of the Fall?
A very long time ago.
Okay. Tristan. He goes into the woods. He just leaves. And when he's like an old man, fights a grizzly to the death. And that's probably how I'm going to die. I don't want to die that way. That would be so bad. It would be terrible.
I forget the name of the book, but I read a book. Man, what was that called? But it's a kid who was attacked by a grizzly bear and lives. And it kept coming back. Man, what book was that?
It kept coming back?
It kept coming back. Like,
are you not confusing this with The Revenant? Like
No. This was... I don't want to butcher the story, but it was something like him and friends were out camping and he got up earlier than everyone and he was like, man, I want to go up and like see the sunrise. And he like went up the mountain and it turned out to be like an adolescent or whatever, but still it's a freaking... They're
more dangerous than the other ones, honestly.
And I don't want to butcher it, so I'm just going to kind of leave it at that, except for that, like I think he tried the whole like play dead thing that didn't work or something, but for some reason the bear was like left. And then he was like real jacked up, kind of helpless, and then it came back. I don't remember how it all goes. So this is like the worst story to tell right now.
Thank you for this. Where was he?
I don't remember. God. I got to figure out what this even was. I don't remember.
I think you're not. I think you're taking like 4 things and remembering them and misremembering all of them.
I don't think that's true. I'm going to edit this out.
Because you're fearful. We don't have like a good yes and going today. No. You know what I mean? We don't really have that. And I blame you because I was trying to set you up, but you were like,
what do you want me to say? You want me to go like, I'm not fearful?
Yeah, that'd be a good start.
Yeah. I'm not fearful. Well, then where's that going? I don't know.
Somewhere better than where it went. Could have been a lot of things.
We talked about how you're going to die. So
how am I going to die?
Grizzly.
Probably old. Just an old man. I'll probably just be such a curmudgeon that...
If the level of curmudgeon goes up, you're screwed.
It'll go. It's been going down since I've been getting older, actually. Kind of, I think. You don't think so? I do. I'm cool. I feel like I'm getting cooler as I get older. Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm curmudgeonly, maybe a little bit. You think a lot.
I don't know. I guess I'm thinking about the fact that you said it's gone down since you've gotten older. I don't think that's true. I think it's been pretty level.
No.
Do you have like an example of how it's gone down? Like something you used to do?
All right, well,
that
let's do
you're not?
this. Let's do this. How do you see me as a curmudgeon? Like, how you defining that?
You're very judgmental.
That's not true. That's actually not true.
I don't know.
I would own it. That's not true.
I think it's true.
It's not true.
I think it's true.
I used to be far more judgmental than I am now.
Okay, so you're saying that your level of judgmentalism has come down.
That's not a fucking word.
I'll bet you it is.
God. No. Yes, it has. Yes, I will say that I'm not nearly as judgmental as I used to be.
Yeah. I don't know. Whatever.
You suck.
You
anyway, let's talk about what we were going to talk about today since you're not any fun.
I don't even want to talk about that anymore.
I feel like I got to carry this whole thing sometimes. So
carry it away.
you want to talk about what you want to talk about, Chris. So what do you want to
Let's
talk
talk about what I want to talk about. I don't know if is it really that hybrid athlete training's gotten more popular.
What does it mean?
Well, we'll get to that, but like
I
the
think
whole reticular activation system thing.
I think it's a definition.
What?
I think that it's just so my take on all of this, and I understand where you're going, but like it's I don't know exactly what all of these other people mean by hybrid athlete training. I guess is it like competing in something like high rocks? Is it something like that, or is it just honestly, in my estimation, it would be just well-rounded fitness that makes you capable to do most things. Maybe not especially well, but at least generally well.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think that's why I was like, well, what's the definition? Because like all of these high rocks things, like, sure, you need a basic qualities, but it's like an anaerobic bath for a lot of that stuff. It seems like to me. But
High rocks is very, very long.
yeah,
Like I don't remember what the world record is, but I mean they're I think people do them in around 2 hours. I think the world record is closer to an hour and a half. I should look instead of just butchering this. So I was way off. The official world record in the pro division is 55:09 for men and 60 minutes for women. So but then, Hunter. But then it says he set a 54:07. So maybe the
camera's on me, right?
maybe their website isn't updated. It's both from their. This is from a different website, but yeah, apparently 54:07 is the fastest ever. But still, most people are going to go through it significantly slower, and it's. I would say that is very, from my understanding as having not done one, but like. Paying attention to like what Hunter McIntyre and stuff's been saying is they have made it more efficient. So like he was saying like recently that one of his fears is that they're not changing the weight, but they've done something to like the types of sleds they're using so that there's less friction. So it's the same weight, but it's moving much faster. Like for instance, he did something I think where he said he improved by like minutes, and he's like, I didn't get so strong that I improved my time by minutes. It's like they changed like the bottom of the sleds or something like that. And he was saying his fear is that it's going to just get watered down to attract more of the just like
Make it more general.
Yeah, like you're more like right now, like the best people you look at Megan, we met her at Joe Hashie's seminar back in the day, like freaking yoked, right? Like she is strong.
Well, and she was like a track athlete before she started all that stuff.
Like crazy endurance, but like she is strong, and that's why she has the world record time, because right now it favors people who are, of course, like world-class endurance, but also have freak strength, which is a rare find. And Hunter was saying his fear is that there's certain things they're doing that he thinks they're watering it down to start to have it.
For more endurance folks.
Bingo. Yeah. So I don't know, but I think for a lot of people, you're right. It means different things. For some people, it means blending bodybuilding and running. For others, it's like blending strength and running. But I think it's blending what most people would think of as competitive demands.
Oh, you mean like
what hybrid
strength
training is.
and endurance?
Bingo.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd say,
or bodybuilding and endurance. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, my estimation is like, I guess the way that I see it is, I don't know. I guess I understand the competing demands thing. That makes sense. But it's just the way that I see it as an outcome is I see it as capability, right? And so you have a general blend of all these things that allow you to do pretty much whatever you want until you decide to specialize. You know what I mean? So that's the way that I see it. And then, so for me, it's just, well, it's an intelligent strength and conditioning plan that is concurrent, which is the way that we do it, and features certain qualities throughout the year, but develops them all throughout the course of a year. And so being a hybrid athlete to me is just a person that can say yes to almost anything and do okay. At least be able to do it, you know?
Yes.
So that's what I see it as.
I know I've said this to you, and I don't know that I still have it fully formed in my head, but I keep saying it as like language of movement. And just because you can speak a language doesn't mean that you can go and hold like an in-depth conversation. But the more that I've kind of like juggled this idea around in my head, I think it's like knowing multiple languages, but knowing multiple languages so well that you can begin to do improv. And ironically enough, you want me to do yes and I'm not.
You're not good at it.
Not with you on it here.
Good at it.
But it's essentially the ability to like yes and, like I've always said, be the type of person that can say yes, but yes and like go in and have people go like, wait, what? Like, you know, I think a lot of people, I can think of a couple specific people who like Kevin Ives and Dustin Pegg, who like you can show them something once and then they're like this, and you're like, yeah, like that, and they're like as good as anybody.
Well, it's just
that thing, you know what I mean? Sure, but I think you can have an aspect of that by developing your physical capacities so well that, I mean, number one, like fatigue will mask skill, but I think fatigue also makes it hard to acquire skill.
Well, we know that.
But then you, like, so that's the fatigue side of it. But then strength allows you to be, could be more efficient, use less energy to get tasks done, right? Like not have to tap into your, not go anaerobic as quickly, etc. And so you are like with this combination, I feel like the yes and is that like you're able to say yes, but you're also able to kind of have people around you have that experience of the friend that you show something once and you're like, what the heck? It's just like fatigue and weakness do not limit you in that thing, which knocks down a lot of barriers to being able to acquire new skills. And when those limiters are offered, limitations, I guess we'll say, are off the table, I think that you can say yes and pick up new things really, really fast.
You have to train your weaknesses.
Yeah.
You can't just hide in your strengths where it's like, you know what I mean?
Well, so you're saying your weaknesses of being physical capacities or like skill?
I mean, both.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's just like, it would be like in my own example, if I just lifted all the time and I never developed myself aerobically to the point that I have, like I wouldn't be able to say yes, but
yeah,
you know what I mean? So I think that that's the thing about it. That is the crux of it, is you have to develop your weaknesses so that you have a broader base of abilities, because if you just stay in your strengths all the time, like you limit your options and you're not actually a hybrid quote unquote athlete, because you really are just stuck in a lane, you know, which is where I was for a long time.
Very long time. Not really though, because if you play, I guess it depends on position, but a lot of team sports have an endurance component and a weight room component.
When I was in college, I was a monster.
Yeah.
I mean, when I got out of college is when I was just very big and strong, and I wasn't what I used to be. Wasn't what I used to could do.
When you specialized and went more powerlifting.
I mean, in high school, high school was different because I played football a lot. But when the 3 years after college that I didn't really do anything aerobic, and all I did was try to lift weights. I was definitely not able. I can remember my girlfriend at the time, Annie, and I were hiking, and because I was gassed because I had no fucking aerobic capacity, I made a false step and slipped because I couldn't pay attention, and I sent a rock down the hill, and her hand was posted, and it landed on her hand and smushed her ring to her hand, which was a ring that she got in Galway, Ireland, that you can only get in Galway, Ireland. We had to go to the hospital so she could have it cut off, and I felt like such an asshole. And so yeah, so it's just like I said yes, but I couldn't say yes in a very fun way for anybody, So there's also a lot of limiting beliefs at that point in my life too, where I thought that if I went out and did a bunch of aerobic stuff, I'd get weaker, and I thought that
wither away.
I thought that the interference effect was real, and all of those kind of things, and it's 100% not, and we know that. But yeah, but that's contrast that to putting all of the time, and I've written about this somewhere else recently, that aerobic development is not easy for me. It takes me a lot of work took me a lot of work to be where I'm at. And so that's one of those things where I think to do this the way that you want to, you have to understand the different level of commitment it takes to get to the different things that you want, and realize that sometimes the discomfort is just in the consistency and in the volume,
But when you unlock that,
you're a monster. Yeah.
You're able to do relatively whatever you want to do.
For sure. And that's the thing is personally, I can still deadlift over 500 pounds.
Yep.
I've recently run a half marathon. I can beat most people up a mountain. I can carry a ton of weight. I can still jump high. I can still sprint, although I did almost hurt myself the other day. So it's you just have to I think the first thing is realizing if you're one of those people that thinks you're going to lose the thing that you have by training something else, it's not. It depends on the training volume that you can still give to something. And sometimes you have to make that bargain with yourself that, well, I have to give a little bit of this up to be able to get some of this stuff, depending on who you are. Because I think all of us and anybody that's listening to this is a real person with a real life. If all you had to do was train, sure, you could still, unless you're a freak show listening to this, you could still deadlift 600 pounds and run a 6-minute mile. But it's somewhere you have to give things up. And for me, it was well, I don't need to deadlift 600 pounds anymore. I can give those things up and focus on the other things that are going to give me more of what I want,
Yeah. I mean, when I did the Georgia Death Race, as I got close to the race, my running volume was so high that and I'm throwing up air quotes here if you're not watching, you're just listening, my lower body strength was down in the gym. But I think that my strength was really just masked because
fatigue will mask your fitness for sure.
Because after the race, obviously there's weeks of recovery from 74 miles or whatever it is. But then
I heard it was only 73.3 this year.
But then my strength came right back, and then I hit all-time PRs in rear foot elevated split squat in June or July, and the race was March. So I don't think it's that you truly lose it. It's that you're spending so much time putting in so much volume. In that example, I was putting in so much time and volume into running that my legs just did not have the energy to also come in here and push that much weight. But I didn't technically lose anything. It came right back. So,
I mean, you made a trade.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's part of the thing is you have to realize you're going to make some trades. You're not going to be your absolute strongest. You're not going to be your absolute, most conditioned. And understanding where you're, understanding your strengths and weaknesses. Where, as I've developed my aerobic system. Is it better than most people's? Yes. Am I ever going to be an elite endurance athlete? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I don't have the right parents for that. I have the right parents to be big and strong and jump high, but it's just understanding those things about yourself too.
But that also is the example I gave is a very extreme end of the example. You know what I mean? And so for most people, what they want to do, which like one of the reasons why I wanted this today is like I was saying to you, the number of times, really even in the last month, but even this week, right after you and I talked about doing this episode, a member here at the gym messaged me like, "Hey, I want to reincorporate running, and should I do it on my strength days? Should I like double up on those days? Should I do it on the days like in between strength?" And of course, I ask questions like, "Where are you coming in for the conditioning days here?"
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah, at least one of them. I was like, well, there's a number of different ways that you could approach this, but then also like on the tactical side of things, guys being like, a common approach is to ramp up, or by ramp up for some, it's like start running for the first time that they have since this time last year. Ramp up their running to get ready for the running that they have to do.
You actually
I do keep doing it that
said
way.
it like Forrest
Running.
Gump right there. Yeah. No, that makes
For the
me
running
happy.
that they have to do during selection.
As team guys helping out with selection.
Yes,
Just to clarify.
You still doing.
Oh, for sure. I'm just saying, just to clarify.
And so it's like there just seems to be, and that's where I'm like, is there this uptick in it, or is it just that like we're paying attention to it more, so we're hearing more of it, or people
I think
say
people
more
just
of it
put
to
a
us?
name on it, you know. Like we said on the phone the other day, it's a progression from CrossFit, I think. Whereas like people are actually getting smarter about how to program this stuff out, and the competitions are changing a little bit. Like that's really the way that I see it.
I don't even know if it's just CrossFit, because I think, I'm certain I've talked about this on here before, but I was sitting there shaking my head like, yeah, that's true for me. And I don't think this is as true for someone just getting into working out, say someone in their late teens right now. But it was true for me, where Mike Boyle says about like the evolution of a lifter, where he was like, you come in because you were interested in developing muscle. So it's sort of like a bodybuilding style approach first. And then you start to, maybe it's like the bench press. You're like, man, it'd be cool to bench 2 plates. And then, man, I wonder if I could put up 315. And then you start to go more into the powerlifting side of things. And you're doing that for a while, but then you start to go like, man, this is hell on my body, like bench, squat, deadlift, like load. And you start to be like, man, I want to feel better, move like an athlete again. And you kind of find more of like the functional training side of things. And for Mike, that's where, in his story of it kind of ends, because it's like their system of training. I personally think CrossFit kind of, but I think it's an evolution on the air quotes intelligent side of training. I think it's even an evolution from like your general strength conditioning, where you're blending those things into like, look at the Exos, even Boyle, where it's like we train power, strength, mobility, and conditioning compressed into like one session. Like you look at like, I mean, I haven't looked at Boyles in years and Exos in years, but I know that they were doing like, you come in, we go through our group warm up, and then like this station over here, we're doing like our power, you know, maybe core mobility, similar to like stuff that we've done over the years. And then, all right, we're gonna go into our main strength work, and then maybe some accessory strength work. And then we're gonna finish up with some like finishers on the bike, the skier, whatever, right? I feel like this is kind of an evolution from that, like
potentially,
again, air quotes, functional training.
I think for most people though, it would come from CrossFit, because that's way more fucking popular than the things that we know about. Like we almost have an insider's bias on that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Whereas like most people don't see that shit. They don't know about Mike Boyle. They don't know about Exos. You know. But
some of the biggest like names in hybrid training are coming from a bodybuilding background, or bodybuilding powerlifting type background. So you look at like Nick Bear, bodybuilding, powerlifting, and then hybrid athlete
wants
training.
to run, sure.
And there's a lot of people that are doing like going from like currently going like bodybuilding show, ultra marathon, bodybuilding show, marathon. Like, so I don't know. I think be wrong.
I think we honestly define it differently than I think what most people do.
My point is, I could be wrong, but I don't see anyone. Rich Froning. I would say Rich Froning is doing more of this, but I think he's just always been that dude. Like where Rich is like,
he's a monster.
Yeah, but what I mean also is like, Rich was like the first like famous CrossFitter.
Yeah.
And I think it's that he was a hybrid athlete. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And then happened to compete in CrossFit. But my point is, you don't see these people who are dominant in CrossFit games transitioning over and excelling at High Rocks.
Are they trying to?
Well, that's my point. I don't think they're evolving from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, for other people, we're
Yeah.
generally like they see something new and they shift, and it's like the progression. What I'm trying to say is that CrossFit primed everybody for something like this, for like things like a High Rock, or like I want to maintain all of these abilities, and I want to be able to do everything, and I actually want to be ready for everything, and I think that that's where it put that idea into the zeitgeist, and then people have been more intelligent about it. Whereas so that's why I say, like, I think maybe we define it a little bit differently, where it's like, it's not necessarily at least for us, like looking at, well, you're going to go do a bodybuilding show, and then in a decent amount of time, then you'll be able to go run a marathon or do this. Like, for me, it's just like,
It's not that for me either.
no, well, I know that. That's what I'm saying. For us is that it's, if you want to be hybrid, well, you're strong. You can move with some endurance. You can maintain your speed, and you can use your speed more than once.
You move well.
You're conditioned, and that's why for me it's just like, oh well, this is just really good strength conditioning for adults that gives them a broad base of general physical preparedness.
Yep. I mean, I think your line when we moved over to the new system in 2021, and shit, for as long as the gyms existed, like, well, what is beyond strength? And you started saying, we actually do what CrossFit says they do.
Yeah, which is true. If also to put a caveat to that, if people come and do everything we tell them to do at the gym, which is what they should do, and they add some more conditioning volume outside of the gym, just because you need more time doing some of the endurance work, like what we're going to give you is going to help you to accomplish that. But it's like, and I think this is one of the things that people don't understand about, still don't understand about CrossFitters that like compete and do really well, is that they don't go do the WODs. Like it's not just,
Bingo.
It's not just in the gym. Like their training is organized in a typically, if they're good in a smart, like Matt Chan knows how to train. And then they have to put endurance volume on top of that. You know what I mean? So like endurance volume on top of what we do at the gym, like it will do, which is within our hybrid system. Mm-hmm. But if you do those things, you will be a monster.
Yes.
So,
and I'll say it, you and I have been kicking it around this week. I will go as far as to say that I believe, I mean, it's up to us, so it's weird for me to say I believe.
I believe.
I think it's safe to say that by probably summer, members of Beyond Strength will be able to choose a track, and it won't change our strength days, but it would provide them more options for if they want to do more extensive conditioning outside the gym. And obviously we'll have the hybrid program, but I think giving people in the gym the option to tap into all of that stuff,
yes,
just makes sense. So,
yeah.
But all that being said, the folks that are like, I want to at least maintain, wouldn't mind getting a little stronger, strength.
Stronger strength.
They want
to get stronger.
Well,
strength.
I was going to say maintain, because it could mean maintain their muscle mass, whatever. We can talk about that. But I want to at least maintain strength. Be cool if I even could still get a little bit stronger. But I want to incorporate running, and I don't want to wither away. What should that look like? And I'll ask questions like, okay, are you willing to do 2-a-days? How many, depending on how you want to approach it, how many hours or how many miles are you looking to put in per week of running volume? But I still think regardless of, besides the 2-a-days, because I think that would absolutely change the layout. So, but let's say someone's like, yeah, I'm willing to put in 2-a-days, but it doesn't mean like necessarily 2-hour plus sessions. I guess we could talk about like what a layout like that might look like. And we could talk about like layering it with like training here. And for someone that's like, no, I only want to do one thing a day, I think we could lay out.
Some people only have time to do one
Exactly.
thing a day.
Yeah. And we could lay out an example of what that looks like. So for the 2-a-day approach, I mean, that one is pretty simple in my mind because that's the thing that I've spent the most time doing over the last year and a half, 2 years, whatever it was. And it's running and lifting, say on a Monday. I mean, I'll go with like our schedule here at the gym. Run and lift on Monday. In an ideal world, you could do it either way, but if you don't have an A goal, so an A goal would be like, I was prepping for the Georgia Death Race. If you have that, like, I would run first, right? But if you're just like, no, I want to incorporate running with my strength, I would lift in the morning, and then in the afternoon or the evening, I would get out and run. And I would make that run from, like, if you're not already running, it might not even be running. It might be run walk intervals. We've talked about that on a previous episode. I think it was called How to Start Running or whatever. But no matter what, that run would be easy. Easy might be run walk intervals, might be a brisk walk for some people. But it could be, I think I would go minimum 30 minutes, but I think 30 to 60 minutes on something like that. So Monday, lift in the morning, 30 to 60 minute run later in the day, at least separated by 3 to 4 hours. But ideally, like pretty good distance between those two sessions. Tuesday, so like Mondays, that would be pretty high stress. Tuesday, low. So like this month we didn't, even though it really is, but next month we definitely will. Tuesday will be an endurance session. So I would say that's more like recovery based, the way that we do it in the classes here. So come in, I would call it like aerobic recovery circuits. Come in, do that on Tuesday. On Wednesday, similar to Monday, the lifts aren't as intense, but lift again in the morning, hit an easy run in the afternoon, in the evening. And then Thursday, instead of doing the vigor class here, or you could do the vigor class, but like look at the intensity of whatever it is. So say that we're going to do like those, they're essentially threshold circuits, where it's like X distance on the bike, and then you go do like the crawl or whatever, and then swings or jumps, etc. Like you could do that time, but of like pretty hard runs. Like I'd say like an 8 to 9 out of 10. For say that those were 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off, whatever. You could follow that same protocol, but I would do like harder run intervals on Thursday if you're ready for that type. And then on Friday, it's typically our higher volume lift. I would probably just lift on Friday. And then on Saturday, I would finally get out for a longer, still very easy run. Again, this is someone just getting into it. So that long for you might look like 60 minutes. Again, it could be run, walk intervals. It might be all brisk walking. But eventually, you could build that up to be actual running, still easy no matter what. I think like to keep it simple, like 180 minus your age on all these easy runs at most. And you could build those up into hours. Like, maybe it's an hour and a half, then you build it to 2 hours, and eventually you get those up to, I wouldn't really go over 3 hours unless you're really prepping for something. You need to go like try out that kind of time on feet. But quick recap, double up on Monday, Wednesday, aerobic recovery circuits on Tuesday, Thursday, more of your speed work, Friday, just your lift because it's more volume based, and then Saturday, get out and do something long. And that something long could even be replace running with, it could be rucking, it could be biking.
You could replace running on all of those
on
scenarios.
all of those days.
Yeah.
Insert whatever thing you want to, cool, it could be swimming, it could be whatever, but that is going to give you like higher stress on Monday, Wednesday, actual recovery on Tuesday. Yeah, another higher hit of stress on Thursday, but then Friday's not going to kill you because it's more volume based. Like Saturday is, even though it's long, it's easy. And then you have like a true off recovery day, Sunday.
And this, you also have to understand, like this depends on the person.
Yeah. I'm throwing
people,
out an example.
Some people, wouldn't be ready to handle all of this. Some people need a true day off in the middle of the week.
Yes.
Like this isn't like what you would have to do.
No. And I would even say like an intuitive approach, like sometimes you lie to yourself about how you feel, not on purpose. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like you don't know how you feel. Like perception can be weird, if that makes sense. But man, all of this can be like slid around a bit based on feel as well. But as a rough example, like it'd be a good chunk of volume. You could if you're not running at all, I would not do that speed session on Thursday for sure. I would probably keep things very short. Run walk intervals for 30 minutes on Monday, Wednesday. Instead of speed work on Thursday, instead of run walk intervals, maybe you're just like, I'm going to treat it more like a steady state. And I'm actually going to go and, all right, I'm not going to keep it quite 180 miles my age. I'm going to let it go a little bit above that. But you do like 15 minutes of like brisk walking or super easy. And then maybe for 20 minutes, you run it like a moderate effort. And then super easy on the back end for like another 15 minutes. But yeah. And then, I don't know, if someone wanted to do stuff on each day and not double up, I don't know if you want to riff on that one, but
I mean, it doesn't look all that different. I mean, it would just be maybe it depends. Honestly, it depends on what the main outcome you want is, right? Because that's where you want to put most of your what you would call developmental stress instead of like stimulatory stress or like whatever you would need the most.
So keep in mind the goal. This is someone who's looking to like reincorporate or just incorporate running.
Yeah. So you would do.
They're looking to get into it.
You would. I mean, you could lift on Monday and then do a 30 to 60 minute run on Tuesday.
Yep.
Lift on Wednesday or condition on Wednesday. And then Thursday, repeat the 30 to 60 minute run. Friday, I mean, it depends on how strong you are. And like Friday, you could do a higher volume lift, or you could do another kind of a low intensity conditioning session. Maybe it's on the bike or something like that to get to not pound pavement quite as much. And then Saturday, you would just do a longer conditioning session. Like it could be a hike, it could be run walk intervals, it could be swimming, it could be biking, it could be anything. I mean, I think a lot of times in that case biking works really well because it's lower impact if you haven't been running, and you can sustain the activity for a long time, and you can also control the intensity relatively easy. I mean, barring that there's hills, but still,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm
Also, you can ride a bike inside that doesn't move. Those happen. We got those.
People don't need as much strength training volume, especially if you've already put a boatload of time into that, and there's some fears around.
I'm gonna deal with that all the time.
Yeah. So, 2 days a week, like you can absolutely maintain and probably still even make, depending on how far along you are, like, still make some progress on that.
Man.
But, I mean, and then the withering away part is like, that was my genuine concern. Whenever you dared me to do the Georgia Death Race, I was like, I'll do it. And then I thought, oh man, like my genetics, like
skinny little bitch.
And so I documented the whole process, and I didn't like lose a pound.
Well, you ate like a horse.
I ate like a horse. I got leaner, and
Chris had to mortgage his house again for all the food that he ate. So.
Hashtag thank you Mighty Meals. But I didn't really lose weight. I maybe lost a couple pounds, maybe. But weight fluctuates so often. Like when you stop and look at like weekly averages, my weight basically stayed the same throughout. Now, what's interesting is since not putting in as much run volume and still wanting to eat like that, I've now gone from like 163 is where I was at with all the running to 170. So I'd say coming off the back end of that, you do need to remember that you're not putting in 9 hours a week of running anymore,
right,
and adjust your calories back down. But no, not at all, like at all. And it wasn't just a weight thing, like, oh, the scale stayed the same. Like I have like the before and then pictures all throughout. And even like, I mean, density, muscularity, like did not have any interference whatsoever.
So how'd your weird belly button, like all that stuff?
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo. Yeah.
Cool.
I don't know, like other stuff on here that we want to touch on.
Uncle Touchy's puzzle basement. You wear a shirt and you'll cry.
I don't think we need to dig into some of the. I think the biggest thing, and I know we did an episode on this previously, and I'll probably throw it in the show notes of this one, so that if you're just hearing our stuff new to it, it'll be easy to find. But like, no, you won't wither away. No, it's not going to make you weak. Yes, you should think through the structure of your training to make sure that you aren't just like doing something stressful every day and like putting yourself behind the stress curve and just getting worse all around, because that is a possibility. And then you may be led to believe like, oh, these guys were wrong. Like I am getting weaker and like my endurance is being held back. Like there needs to be, it's not crazy complicated, but there needs to be, I don't know, for lack of better terms, thoughtful structure to how things are laid out to allow yourself recovery. And the other thing I was going to say is you do, like we were saying, you can put anything, it could be biking, it could be rucking, it could be swimming, but you have to run. Like the plyometric component of running, there's nothing else that will prepare you for running. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, what did I lay out? I laid out running on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. So 4 days a week. It doesn't mean, and I probably wouldn't recommend for you to go jump into all 4 days of running, but you've got to run. So it could look like doing things to get off your feet for some of those sessions, but you couldn't do all of the things off your feet, meaning on the bike, in the water, whatever, or even rucking where there's no real plyometric component, and think like, yeah, I'm going to be ready to go run. You will be disappointed in that. So,
no, yeah, you have to. Chris, I'll tell you what, I had something to say. I don't know.
And now I put the camera on you.
It's
and you're
gone. I lost it. I lost it a minute ago.
I think, I don't know. Is there anything else there?
When you said you're not withering away, what else did you say?
I said you're not going to wither away. No, you're not going to get weaker. But you do need to think about how you lay things out. Like,
oh, that's what it was. Another thing is, I think a lot of people, there's this misconception. You get sold things by different training programs that like you're going to be able to maintain some kind of max intensity for like a very long time, right? And that is just not the case. That will never happen. That's not how it works. Like, and I think it's important for people to understand that before you go out and maybe start to train like this or whatever you're training for, you can't maintain max intensity for very long because it's max intensity. And so you have to train very slow sometimes and you have to train very hard sometimes, but there is a middle ground where this is what you can sustain, and feeling as though you should be able to start out hard and maintain hard for as long as you want to, like that is not a real outcome. Like that's not something that happens. And I think that that's one of the things that disheartens people or confuses people or thinks that something didn't work, but that's just not how the human body works. So
lowering the floor
first,
and it's boring. And it will feel like it's probably not very productive. You'll finish a session, you'll be like, I don't even feel super tired necessarily.
But the thing is, too, is it doesn't take that much. Like one of a client is 60-something, 63, running 2 days per week, easy, rucking 1 day per week, not hard. Resting heart rate went from 58 to 60 down to like 45 to 47. And that's 3 hours of volume a week.
In how long?
Oh, I don't know. Consistently 12 weeks.
It's fast. Maybe
longer than that. But I know his consistency has been really good for 12 weeks.
It's awesome.
But like but that's what I'm saying is like that's a huge gain. And what you have to realize is like if you see your resting heart rate lower like that is an obnoxious gain in aerobic fitness.
Yes.
So, and that gives you more ground for your heart rate to go up as you train. So I just wanted to touch on that because I think a lot of people, they start to either beat themselves up because they go out and they try to sustain some max pace because they're sold some false belief that isn't real, or they think that something didn't work for them because they can't just go fucking bury themselves for 2 hours because it's like, of course you can't. Like that's not how it works. So
two things come to mind then off that, and I don't want to overcomplicate things, but one, if you look at, if we pick like an intensity week of either one of my bigger like ultra train ups, even though I mentioned like, I mean, hours of running a week, like a Monday, like let's say I was doing steady state intervals, it's moderate intensity, but like the first 15 minutes, my heart rate, I'm trying to keep it 138 and below, right? And then in that middle section, yeah, maybe it goes into the one for like a 40-minute steady state. It might get into the upper 150s, low 160s. We're not talking about like burning the candle, like redlining it. And then it's another 15 minutes, super easy, back down like 138 or below. Tuesday, aerobic recovery circuits here, my average heart rate's gonna be like 111, 112. Wednesday, easy run. That whole run, I'm gonna keep under like low 140s and under. You know what I mean? For an hour. Thursday, let's say that it was during threshold. Okay, so I'm gonna have what were threshold intervals? 12 minutes or so? 12.
Depends. I mean, you can run them as short as 3.
I forget how. Well, not my VO2 max. VO2 max intervals I would do for like 3, but my thresholds I think I did for like, those were the big ones. So I would put it into like a 2-hour run, and then I would do like multiple 12-minute, 12 to 15-minute thresholds. But point being, those thresholds were like 160s, maybe kissing low 170s, right? But if you look at the totality of that session, it might have been 2 or 3 12-minute. So we're looking at 24 to 36 total minutes at intensity out of that whole session was like 2 hours, right?
Right.
Friday is when I would do my long run. So I might put in a 2.5, 3 hour long run on Friday, all easy, like 143 and below. And then Saturday, like a 1 hour like recovery run. So that would be another like 138 and below for an hour. Point being, you hear all this time, but like 36 at most, 36 to 45 if it was like a 3x15, like absolute peak week. So at most 45 minutes of however many hours that was that I just said was that like true, like running hard, like really trying to push here. The majority of it was very easy, like conversational, could keep doing it, and you could mistakenly feel like it's not really doing anything. And just that little 40-minute thing on Monday where it was like a moderate intensity. So it's just and even that's a pretty extreme week, but like your fitness, that's where your run fitness is built, is with all of those easy runs and the compounding volume, right? So there's that. And then also where I thought you were going to go when you were saying, which you can't just go out and maintain intensity. I think also if we look at that on a little bit of a bigger level, you can't just go like, use the example of like the time I just put in. Let's say it was like 312s on that like hard run on Thursday. All right, next week I'm gonna do 412s. I'm gonna maintain everything else, and then next week I'm gonna do 512s. Like and every single day I'm gonna go a little bit longer, a little bit harder. I'm just gonna keep on doing that, right? Like there's different approaches, but like I have found success with slight increases, like week 1, and then week 2 is just the slightest tick up, and then week 3 another slight tick up from that, and then week 4 like drop everything way down. Total number of days on feet, the intensity, the duration, and then go into like our next emphasis, and it's a 3-week build and then a drop off. Like, but the number of people who we've talked to, or, you know, I've joined the gym or whatever, and they're like, I've been doing either the same run every single day in this like mushy middle intensity that's not, it's too intense to really develop aerobic fitness, and it's not intense enough to really, it's just like in this like constant state of nothing, kind of, you know what I mean? Just like under recovered and not really building anything. And it can be really hard for someone like that who's like, they've become addicted to the way that that feels, or they're just like, they have a certain feeling from the way that that feels, that to tell them like, no, actually, if we went like really easy, made it a little bit harder, okay, a little bit harder than that, now let's go like super easy, and then easy, but maybe a little harder than the first, you know what I mean? Like, right. But you can't just go out and like chase a feeling every time, or have to feel like your training needs to be hard. And not only like you can, you can, but it'll be one of those like, how's that working for your conversations? You want. Yeah. But
I believe I'm done.
I believe.
I believe.
All right. Did we hit the right button?
I think you might.